I think the difference between a good solutions story and a great solutions story is storytelling, is actually the thing we're already good at. I would say the second thing would be how much you lay out the response. Like, bring me into the process. I want to know how you did it. I want to know that you, the reporter, are on my side. You're taking me through really how it's done, and then by the end of it, I feel like, oh shoot, I could do that.
We have these 4 pillars. Is it a story about a response? Does it mobilize evidence? Does it surface insights? And does it acknowledge limitations? And that's really why we created the awards, to highlight stories that have those qualities and to look at examples for both inspiration and for learning. One of the things that we're seeing with the awards is that they represent this moment that we're in globally, where the world is dealing with the climate crisis. There's a lot of stories that came up, and they looked at how people are adapting to it, responding to it in many different ways. Our First Place Award looks at a fascinating climate adaptation in Peru, where farmers are capturing the fog to be able to do farming in areas where they couldn't previously.
It seems to me that it is a bit of a boom, at least in the last 12 months, for solutions journalism, and in some ways that's a brilliant thing and can only be for the greater public good. In others, I think we need to also make sure that we maintain that sort of quality and reporting that is making important change, whether that be problems that will not be solved easily or in terms of actually changing policy.
We also see an example of a story that looks at how to change human behavior. The zero waste story that was published in Grist in The Guardian, looking at what is the last mile of the climate crisis, which is fundamentally changing people's behavior, and looking at this through the how-to question. And in the case of the story from the Amsterdam News, we see an example of a local news organization connecting a global issue, the climate crisis, to a local issue, gun violence. One of the things we also tried to do with the awards was to show the variety of news types that are producing solutions journalism, particularly audio. I mean, we see it, the best way to reach many audiences is through community radio or public radio. The example that we have from NPR looking at youth mental health in Colorado and the importance of helping people to destigmatize this by talking about it.
I felt so honored that you all thought that the work I did was not just worthy to make as like a finalist, but to like choose the local piece, the micro piece for this award and for the first set of these awards, right? I didn't have the full idea that people were reading it to the extent that they were. At SEJ, I was talking to a Report for America Corps member who was telling me about this really cool heat story about the relationship between heat and gun violence. And it's like, he was talking to me, and that was my story. And I thought, that's the wildest thing. That's never happened to me before my whole career. And it just meant so much. I don't know how to put to words how much it means that it was recognized. This was the first award I've won as a solo person. Even though this work is never done in solo, it was the first award I was nominated for and won.
Freelancing, you know, I based on having regular, reliable story ideas to pitch to editors, and I guess a key part of that is, you know, what's new about this, and solutions work really well for that, I suppose, in that, you know, something's either been tested for the first time or you found sort of interesting new results.
So when you start describing a story through the lens of what are the insights here, what are the ideas, what are the teachable lessons, you move it away from a local story to something that is part of the global knowledge that we now have together. And I really think that the core of what makes solutions journalism work is humility. There's this idea that we're using our discernment and our appreciation and our critical faculties to try to add to the world's store of knowledge about how we can meet the challenges of our time.